Hello, everybody. Good evening, and welcome back to the latest episode of The Debrief. Here on the Blood Red channel, I'm your host, Edward Kay. Joining me this evening is Matt Addison, and we are, of course, going to be going over Liverpool's 3-0 victory over Nottingham Forest at Anfield in the Premier League this afternoon. And I think probably the place to start, Matt, is the front three, obviously all scoring. Diogo Jota ends up getting the nod after... I think we're probably all expecting Luis Diaz to start, but obviously the ongoing situation with his parents in Colombia, obviously everyone's thoughts are with him at the moment. Like I said, Diogo Jota ends up getting the nod, and he gets the first of the three goals. And I mean, he's just inevitable at this point in the box, isn't he? Really, he's just got such an uncanny knack of popping up in the right place. Obviously, it was a good strike from Darwin Nunez, parried pretty much straight to Jota, and then obviously he's there to put on the finishing touch, and a nice moment as well. Obviously, him going and holding up Diaz's shirt for the celebration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he's spoken after the match as well. I saw some quotes, I think, speaking to Match of the Day, Diogo Jota talking, obviously, on behalf of the squad, I'm sure, about their thoughts being with Luis Diaz. And I'm sure it must have been, a weird preparation for this match, because I don't know quite the timeline of events and when Liverpool would have known about Diaz, but I know Jurgen Klopp spoke about having been up through the night and that sort of stuff. It wasn't the perfect preparation. It wasn't a perfect performance from Liverpool. It was, professional and comfortable and dominant, but it wasn't scintillating attacking football, which I think is fair and understandable, obviously, in the circumstances as well. But it just sort of shows, really, when you've got those kind of attacking players. Cody Gakpo, obviously a little bit unlucky with the offside one at the end, and comes off the bench and is a brilliant option. Even Harvey Elliott as well, you could probably put into that bracket in terms of obviously being a really good sub and an extra bit of attacking impetus. When you've got that many quality players on the pitch, I think you just fancy Liverpool to score at least two, if not more, in every game now. And like I say, this wasn't an amazing performance from Liverpool. It wasn't absolutely chance after chance, but they just did so much to make it easy for themselves. The game was done by half-time, and I think the more Liverpool can do that, the better. I noticed a tweet from David Lynch who summed it up pretty nicely, I think, in terms of what we've seen from Liverpool today was a performance where last season it probably would have ended 3-2. They'd have been all over the place for a period. They'd have conceded a couple of goals. They might have won, but it wouldn't have been comfortable. Where today it was just 100%. No period in that game did it look like Forest were even going to have a shot, let alone score a goal. It just was complete domination from Liverpool, and I think that's how it's got to be, really, against the bottom 10, bottom 12, maybe, home and away. If you can get a performance like that, I think that will go a long way for what Liverpool want to be this season.
Yeah, as you say, not really a scintillating vintage Jurgen Klopp Liverpool performance, but really didn't need to be. It really was an extremely routine afternoon for Liverpool. Exactly sort of the kind of performance that they only really needed to put in to get that kind of result. And I mean, in terms of Forest, probably one of the teams who've come to Anfield and caused Liverpool's defence the least trouble so far this season, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Liverpool didn't let them out. They've got a couple of injuries as well, which I think probably didn't help. I think Morgan Gibbs-White looks like a good player. I think he showed a few good touches and looked decent, but they've just not got enough quality, really, to make Liverpool feel threatened for any sustained period of time. The most likely they looked to score was probably from the long throw, which I've never seen, well, apart from when we saw it last season, I've never seen anything like it, with no run-up, and he just sort of becomes a human slingshot and puts the ball onto the 6-yard box. I think if that's the opposition's best way of scoring or best way of creating a chance, I think you'd fancy Liverpool to win fairly comfortably. I think it was just a case, really, in that first half of could they, get the second before half time and really put it to bed. They did that, and from that point on, it was just a case of getting through. Obviously, not seeing the average positions of the Forest players, but I'm pretty sure all 11 would have been in their own half, because they just sat there, didn't really offer a great deal, and Liverpool had to break them down. But as we said, they've got so much attacking quality that you'd fancy to do that 2, 3, 4 times in the game, and ultimately that's obviously what ended up happening.
Yeah, plenty of attacking qualities, you say, and plenty in the midfield too now as well. I mean, we find ourselves pretty much talking exclusively about the midfield at times this season. Dominic Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister, definitely there's two standouts today. Szoboszlai obviously getting 2 assists, but we'll start with Alexis. I have to say, I thought that was probably his best game in the number 6 that we've seen him play. I mean, and I do feel a bit sorry for Endo. I know he came on at the end, obviously, and he sort of went into the 6 and McAllister pushed forward a little bit, but a little bit unfortunate for him, given that he probably played his best game for Liverpool in the Europa League this week, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I've said all along, I think that McAllister is the one to play in that position. I think there will be the odd game where Endo is maybe more suited to it. We've seen, obviously, in the Europa League games, that's going to be the case. I think it probably would have been a bit different if Liverpool were in the Champions League. But I just think we've seen exactly why against the majority of teams that Liverpool are going to be, dominant and comfortable against. You want Alexis McAllister there. He was able to get on the ball and break Forest's midfield down and, play some intricate passes, play little 1-2s, play the ball through people's legs and get through little tight gaps. I just don't think there's anybody else probably in the Liverpool squad that can do that from that position. I think that would be fair to say. I think Endo is a good player and has his qualities, but I think we saw today exactly why Alexis McAllister is the number 1 at this moment in time. And I think that there will, as I say, be opportunities for Endo to play in the league at some point this season. But I think, for Liverpool, not every game will be as easy as that. But most games, Liverpool kick off as overwhelming favourites. Even against some of the bigger teams, you'd fancy that, they'd be able to score 2 or 3 goals and be on top. And if that's the kind of game that we're looking at, then I think Alexis McAllister has to be your man, really. I think he's pretty close to getting a suspension, I think. So that's a little bit of a worry in terms of a couple of the games coming up. But I just think, there'll be moments where he gets caught out, but I think you can maybe get away with that. The benefit of having him in the team against teams like Forest or Luton and Brentford coming up, the benefit just outweighs the negative side of it for me. And I think we've seen a perfect example of that today. I think Jurgen Klopp said it himself actually about a month ago. He said that the best way of defending is to be dominant and to have the ball and be in control. If Liverpool can keep the ball as well as what they did today, and they were dominant against Aston Villa as well. It's not just the case that they've done this against Forest. They've done it against better teams as well. And Alexis McAllister is a massive, massive part of that. And that's, for me, perfectly sums up why he is in the team. And I think there's a chance that Liverpool will go out and spend big on a player in that position at some point. But, between now and then, I'd be very, very surprised if Alexis McAllister doesn't just stick as being that number 1 option.
Yeah, it was a really good tackle and a good pass from him to set Liverpool away for the first goal. Obviously, probably the moment that sticks in everyone's mind after that. But like I said earlier, Szoboszlai with 2 assists, and I mean, he doesn't actually usually get the numbers. Those might have been, I think they were his first 2 Premier League assists for Liverpool, and it's just another fantastic performance, though, isn't it? Even when he's not getting the assists or getting the goals, he's just such a complete midfielder, and he just doesn't really seem to show that much of a dip in level every time he plays, does he, Matt?
Yeah, I think he's one of those players that Liverpool really could have done with, obviously, last season with his quality. But even when he has a bad game, and by no stretch of the imagination did he have a bad game today, but even if he does have a below par game, that the absolute minimum you're going to get from him is loads of running and loads of intensity. And I think if you've got that as a minimum, then you add the quality on top. It's just a massive upgrade in both areas on what Liverpool had last season. So, yeah, we've spoken at length. We don't need to go over, the start of the season that he's had. He's been exceptional. The things that will stand out, obviously, are the long-range shooting, the little tricks that he does, that sort of side of it. But I think, the biggest upgrade in midfield is more a case of just physically, more than anything else compared to last season. Liverpool, as we said, have been so dominant. McAllister and Szoboszlai keeping the ball, and obviously Gravenberch to a certain degree as well, though I thought he was maybe a level down on what we've seen from him at certain times, maybe a little bit tired after playing a little bit too much recently. But I think if you've got players like that who can keep the ball and win it back high up the pitch, that's basically what Liverpool is about, isn't it? That's what Jurgen Klopp wants from his midfielders, and he's just the perfect package. He's the whole thing, rather than just a couple of little bits that we've seen from players in that position in the past. We've seen certain upsides to Naby Keita or Oxlade-Chamberlain or players like that, but I think Dominic Szoboszlai takes the best of each of the players that Liverpool have had in that midfield and combines them into one. So yeah, so far so good, and I'm glad to see him get a couple of assists, because it was unfair really to judge him on not having got those assists. It'd be nice to see those numbers come. I'm sure he'll score a couple more goals as well before the end of the season. So really, really promising start from him. It wasn't his best ever game today, but I think it says a lot about him that he still stands out for all of those other things, even when that's not the case.
Yeah, the couple of assists, obviously, for Darwin Nunez and Mohamed Salah, who both just on a bit of a roll at the moment. And I think those two in particular, them hitting their strides together as part of that Liverpool front three, that's got to be a really scary prospect for any team that have got Liverpool coming up in the near future, hasn't it?
Yeah, I thought Darwin Nunez was good actually today. He did, again, similar to what he was doing in previous matches where he's kind of become a bit more of an all-rounder. I think he's, dropping deep. I noticed it particularly today. We saw it a little bit against Toulouse as well, but particularly today, he was dropping really, really deep and popping up in right-back positions and, holding midfield positions. He was, dropping in, playing that ball and then driving forward and powering through the centre to get on the end of it as well. So it just looks like he's in a really confident mood at the moment, and, hopefully the goals can keep coming for him. But just as important as that is all of the other stuff around it as well. I think I've been more impressed really with that than anything else. I know there's been a couple of sitters that he's missed, but I think his goal scoring inevitably was going to improve this season. I think that was something that we all expected. But the bigger thing really is that he's able to do those other things as well. It's not the case now of you have to pick Cody Gakpo over him for certain matches because he can't do the other stuff. I think we're starting to see now that he's not quite the full package in the same way that Szoboszlai is just yet, but I think he's definitely on that path of he can do lots of different things. The relationship with Salah is really interesting and really promising as well. I think we're seeing a much more refined and coached Darwin Nunez. It's not a long time because we said it about the miss being chaotic on Thursday, but I think his overall game and the performances that he's put in this season, I think chaos is probably the wrong word now, where it was definitely the right word for the entirety of last season. So that's a big step forward for him. Obviously still has more steps to make, but again, really positive. And these are the games that he should be looking at and thinking he can get a couple of goals in each of them. There's no reason why he can't go on a little bit of a run when you look at the teams that are coming up next for Liverpool. So yeah, definitely promising and good to see him take another step forward.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, he's not quite eliminated the misses from his game, but obviously, I mean, when you take into account that this season he's added in, I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6, it might even be 7. I'm not sure. Assists just for Mohamed Salah this season. They've worked up quite a relationship in that front three, and hopefully it's just going to keep flourishing. It's Bournemouth up next in the League Cup, so maybe a bit of rotation for that rest for a few players in the attack and in the midfield and the defence as well, of course. We'll probably see Queven Kelleher in net, but that is all we've got time for here on the debrief this evening. So, Matt, thanks for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.